702 Breakfast.
Weekday mornings, 6 to 9.
Morning, Bongani. I think you are being disingenuous by comparing Operation Dudula to what happened at Ekurhuleni. This is Siamo from Relebogile.
No matter how well reasoned they may think their position is, they still don't have the right to do what they do when they pull people out of clinics. The common factor here is people taking the law into their own hands. In the same way you think it's deplorable to burn down the Home Affairs building, it is equally illegal.
Bongani Bingwa, 6 to 9.
On 702.
Romance is in the details, the candlelight, the atmosphere, and the food that makes the night unforgettable. Your date night spot knows how to set the mood and keep it perfect. It's where the conversation flows and memories are made. Every visit feels special. Now's your chance to say, I see you. Vote for them as Gauteng's greatest date night restaurant at primemediaplus.com. Voting closes on the 27th of August. Make it count. Because Gauteng isn't just the hub of business, it's the home of excellence, and excellence deserves your applause. Gauteng's greatest awards with 702, powered by Yoko.
A healthy immune system begins in your gut, so the inclusion of high-quality probiotics in your diet can be beneficial. Biogen Supreme Probiotic 9 strain is an advanced formula with Hawaru strains and Orafti Synergy 1 fiber designed to improve intestinal flora. Biogen now also offers Supreme Probiotic for her for intimate feminine wellness, as well as acute travel biotic and Choose for Juniors. Choose a probiotic supplement that's right for you. Available at Dis-Chem and biogen.co.za.
Dear Journal, trying to be an adult day 3731. I'm really struggling to explain my parents to my therapist. Might send him to live with them so he can see for himself. What if he ends up in therapy too? Wait, what if they love him more than me?
Finally learning about mental health. Get covered at pineapple.co.za. It's convenient and like 19 Rand a day, so it's 100% the insurance for you. Underwritten by Old Mutual Alternative Risk Transfer Insurer Limited, a licensed non-life insurer and authorized FSP. Premiums are risk profile dependent.
You know what gets my attention? A man who drives the M-Zoom R-Style. Bold, confident, like he knows exactly what he's doing. That matte finish, that attitude, it's giving, text me when you get there. And now he's smart too. He just saved 50,000 rands. Promo price, only 439,900 rands. At that price, I might just text first. So, are you getting the R-Style, or must I keep swiping left? GAC Motor, where craft meets technology. T's and C's apply.
Young professionals aren't just changing jobs, they're walking away from the system itself. This Thursday on 702 Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa, we'll bring you a discussion inspired by the Old Mutual Thought Leaders Forum and explore the growing loyalty gap in the workplace. We'll find out what is fueling the resignation wave, why traditional retirement benefits alone no longer buy commitment, and how employers can evolve to meet the needs of a generation that is demanding more. Don't miss this important conversation. Thursday, the 14th of August. That is tomorrow, brought to you by Old Mutual Corporate on 702.
702 afternoons.
With Relebogile Mabotja.
23 minutes after 1 o'clock. And I'm asking you about the circumstances that would be acceptable for you to be getting paid to do nothing. And I don't mean paid for you to choose what you do with your time. You still have working hours, but you're not given anything to do. 011 883 702, the WhatsApp line 072 702 and 702. We have some of your voice notes.
Oh, I really Msadi, why couldn't you get a job? If you asked for more tasks, you weren't given more tasks, why don't you get another job? I can guarantee you the reason why she's complaining and wanting to sue the company is that she feels like she lost on time. And the problem with that is because during those hours, the working hours, she had to be accounted for. She had to be at work. She was being paid for it. So she probably feels like, I could have done something else during this time, but now she can't because she's at work. But I feel like this is completely her fault. If she wanted to do something and they weren't giving her anything to do, she should have just got another job.
So I hear you. The challenges she was asking, she kept asking, and it was a blue tick. And maybe because in her situation there were health challenges, she understood the limitations, or maybe she did try and nothing came about because of her health limitations. I don't know, but she did try. She asked for work. She wanted to grow. She wanted to be kept busy, but nothing was sent her way.
Hi, it's Garth in Santon. So this subject is actually very appropriate for the government at the moment. I'm sure there'll be a lot of guys and girls being very, very capable at explaining to you that how they can be employed for 20 years and do nothing. I'm sure there will be many of them from the government that can help you with this issue on hand.
It will honestly be a waste of time and energy. Because think about it. Do you know how dangerous doing nothing is? That's the most dangerous thing you can do. It's quite funny how dangerous doing nothing is. So for me, it wouldn't work.
Relebogile Lundi here. I was in the military and I relate so much to a topic of being paid to do nothing. So most of the time we would wait around either for a mission or an exercise or to be on course or to be called basically. But most of the time you just go into work, you would sweep or clean your area, which would take an average of 15 minutes in the morning, and then you're done. But you're not allowed to go home, you're not allowed to go anywhere. Best thing I did for myself was actually bring books to work, where I eventually graduated in law, and eventually I actually left the military because it was just becoming too small. Also, in those departments, they would deliberately frustrate you if they felt that you would be a threat if you would be promoted.
Yo,
Oh, good afternoon, Ceci. Good afternoon. I want to comment about that. You said security guards are not doing anything. Sometimes they just sit outside and listen to the radio. No, security guards, sometimes you don't have to work physically. We use eyes, you see. You just use eyes to guard the premises. You see, if you see them sitting there, you think maybe they are not doing anything, try to break in and see that if they are not doing anything, then you'll find out or you will realize what they are up to. Thank you. It's Mike from Lenesia.
thanks, Mike. I hear you. And of course, shout out to security guards. Yes, they are using eyes, but I'm not going to lie and act like I've not seen security guards napping on their phones, watching TikTok. I would do the same thing. Yes, your eyes have to be vigilant, but those low traffic areas, guys, yeah. And as for the government officials and the lady who messaged about the military, I can believe that one about the military. I know somebody who works in the military, and for them, the fact that there is no action is working in their favor because they left a high pressure job prior. So they are enjoying the limited work. But to go and report somewhere, clean your station, and then sit the whole day, guys, I feel like after 2 weeks, I would be fed up. I'm sure even you and your colleagues run out of things to talk about because now you're together waiting for a mission. Waiting for a mission. That is so rough. Some of your WhatsApp messages. Hi, it's Venan from Florida. I won't be able to go to work and do nothing. My mind is always busy. I will get bored out of my mind. Another one says, sounds like they wanted to work her out and she just refused to leave. That's also possible. Hi, Relebogile. Municipality workers are paid to do nothing. Their systems are forever offline. Sometimes I think they are lying. How much was she getting paid? I think I'm going to contact them. That is my dream job. I'll just be going to work with a bottle of whiskey. You see now you're going to be a drunk, an alcoholic who is doing nothing. Yo, Army and Air Force staff are typical. Most are just sitting, playing chess and drinking tea and egg rolls all day, paid just to be there. I speak because I've been there before. That's from Anonymous. I know a whole lot of people are doing exactly what that lady's doing. They are called parliamentarians. From Tabang. It's even better to be a shifting spanner, i.e. do this, do that, than to sit and do absolutely nothing. Another one says, well, you just described half of the politicians. Let's get them on the line. Nati says, there is no way I would survive to get paid not to do work. For me, every day I must achieve something through work. These are some of your WhatsApp messages that are coming through, but I look forward to hearing more from you. If you are a person who is in a profession where you're paid to do nothing, what then do you do with your time? I just think within me, if I was coming into the office and they're giving me nothing to do, I can promise you I would create something. I would probably go and gather other people doing nothing. We would start a company choir, a company netball team. I could say, but I would not. No, guys. I would start a netball team. I would start a chess club. I would find places for us to enter and compete. Then I'd be like, let's tutor. I would bring students in to tutor with maths. I feel like I would just get going till they'd be like, you're irritating us now. Let's give you something to do. More of your calls, your WhatsApp messages and voice notes when we come back. It's 1:30. Time for your latest Eyewitness News headlines. Good afternoon.
Thanks, Relebogile. Good afternoon. Action says the latest political party to withdraw from the active participation in the national dialogue. The party's parliamentary leader, Athol Trollip, said today there are too many concerns from stakeholders that have not been addressed. Instead, the party says it will send 2 of its parliamentarians to keep a watchful eye over the expenditure of public funds. The Tshwane municipality says it's committed to providing services at the city's fresh produce market following a court judgment ordering the mayor and city manager to be imprisoned for 1 month if they fail to do so. The Metro was found guilty of contempt of court for not complying with an October 2022 judgment which ordered the municipality to upgrade and maintain the market. Among other matters, the city was ordered to ensure the market is fire and smoke detection compliant, purchase generators and evaporator coils with the 18 million rand annual budget allocated for the market. And in the Western Cape, journalists and activists are gathering outside the St. George's Cathedral for a vigil to honour the journalists who have been killed in Gaza. They are remembering and showing solidarity with the media workers killed since October 7th in 2023. Those are the headlines, this Eyewitness News and more at 2 o'clock or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Well, at this stage, if you are leaving the Joburg CBD, there's slow-moving traffic. That's in the Amalgam area on the M2 westbound between the Crown Exchange and Main Reef Road. In the Rivoli area, in the El Dorado Park area, there's slow-moving traffic on the N12 westbound. This is between the N1 and the Golden Highway. Roadwork still causing some delays in Devland. This is on the Golden Highway between the N1 and Union Avenue. Kempton Park, that's leaving OR Tambo International Airport heading towards Pretoria. There's still bumper-to-bumper traffic, R21 northbound between Olifantsfontein Road and the R23 Benoni off-ramp. Look out for those faulty traffic lights in Edenville at Modderfontein Road and Van Riebeck. Traffic lights also not working in Randburg at Malibongo Drive and Mahogany. If you come across any other traffic issues, please SMS us on 31702. We are also on X at EWN Traffic.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
John Perlman. Weekday afternoons,
3 to 6.
Good news for the cement sector, the construction lumber sector, the steel sector, and possibly the transport sector. There may be others as well. And might we start seeing, as construction ticks upwards, at least some either job stability or hopefully new jobs in those areas of our economy?
It's a benefit not only for the construction sector, but for the entire value chain. So you will see a lot of demand for various supplies that we use in the construction sector.
John Perlman.
3 to 6 on 702.
It's Women's Month and Momentum isn't just joining the conversation, they're taking over this show tomorrow. Their workshop series, She Owns Her Success, is back for season 7. And this year it's all about how women have the algorithm. No machine can match her instinct. No code can replicate her lived intelligence. She is the success code. In anticipation of She Owns Her Success workshops, they're bringing you powerful conversations, real success stories, and the tools to help you write your own. Tune in tomorrow as Momentum takes over for 1 hour of this show to bring you the formula for your career, your money, and your life. And don't forget to register now for the She Owns Her Success workshops at sohs2025.co.za. Momentum is part of Momentum Metropolitan Holdings Limited, an authorized and registered credit provider.
We plan for vacations, retirement, and even tonight's dinner. But do we plan for our health? It's how we protect our family's future. So who are you staying healthy for? And how can you protect their future? Choose Dis-Chem Life, the life cover that helps you live a healthier, more rewarding life with health checks and extra rewards. Visit dischemlife.co.za now. Dis-Chem Life. Choose a better partner for life. Dis-Chem Life is an authorized FSP 50594, underwritten by Guard Risk Life, a licensed life insurer, FSP 76. T's and C's apply.
Choose the best. The new Huawei Pura 80 series. The master of photography. A super sensor with precision zoom. Stay sharp from dawn to dusk with a superior 1-inch ultralighting camera and ultralighting macro telephoto lens. The master of color, enhancing every frame with vibrant color and incredible clarity. Tricky lighting? No problem. Take portraits against the light with every face perfectly illuminated. It's more than a phone. It's a professional studio in your pocket. Go beyond with Huawei Pura 80 series.
At the heart of global conversations shaping our future, Africa's voice is more important than ever. As proud lead sponsor of the B20, the Standard Bank Group is honored to showcase the continent's growth, partnerships, and potential on the world stage. Because driving Africa's growth isn't just our ambition, it's our purpose. Tune in every Monday from 3 p.m. for the Standard Bank B20 In Brief for key insights and updates around the B20. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
They opened their doors before sunrise, stayed up late, showed up. Now they've made it to the finals of Gauteng's greatest awards with 702 and Yoko because of you. But they're not done yet. Your vote that could make them Gauteng's greatest. Go to primemediaplus.com now to cast it. Because support isn't just spoken, it's action. And your vote is a standing ovation for the Corner Cafe with the big dreams, the local legend who never gave up, the startup that's changing the game. Gauteng's greatest award with 702, powered by Yoko. Let Yoko Counter fuel your business to greatness. Go to yoko.com to explore the new point of sale solution, saving hundreds of businesses time and money.
Spend your afternoon
with Relebogile Mabotja
on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
23 minutes to 2 o'clock, and we are talking about being paid to do nothing. For 20 years, Laurence van Wassenhove spent 20 years being paid to do nothing at a French telecoms. She's actually suing them. And I'm asking of all of you, what are the circumstances that you would be okay to be paid to do nothing? Not paid for, like literally paid to do nothing. You don't have freedom to do whatever you want. You still have to clock in, but they're not giving you work to do. We also are getting your thoughts on those that are already doing nothing. 011-883-0702 and the WhatsApp line 072-702-1702. Here are some of your voice notes.
Afternoon, Relebogile. Yo, that was emotional blackmail, but why do it now? Couldn't you see in the past 20 years that something was not adding up? Maybe it's too little for late, too little for late, or too late for little. She must just make peace with it. She could have acted in the 20 years.
I think that she was asked to stay at home and work from home. I remember that story when I read it. I think she had to work from home at some point. So she was not in the office. So I think that brings a different angle to the discussion.
Hi, Relebogile. I was recently appointed as an IT support specialist for this new company that is actually contracted to a mine. As it happens, my job was to develop a website, employ it, and all that. Unfortunately, when the contract came out, they discovered that their offices will be based within the mining and the mining premises. But now the administration is using the mining IT infrastructure. So I'm employed full time, and there's nothing much I can do because all those systems are managed by the Mines AT guys. So now I've got more than enough time to continue taking care of my agricultural interests and all that. So I love it. Like the Black Angel.
I know someone who worked 2 jobs precisely because her boss did not give her anything to do for years and years, especially during the COVID times. She applied for a job, went for the interview, got the position, and worked 2 jobs. I think that's a good way of putting your time and skills to use. This is Tandega from Rodiport.
Yo, that's actually so smart. So she collected 2 paychecks, and I guess in COVID, people were working from home. I've seen people in the US, not because they're not being given work to do, but because of how bad the economy is, who share details about how to work 2 jobs at the same time without being caught. So it can be done, and I think that's probably the smartest way for it to happen. Some of your WhatsApp messages, hi, Relebogile, there is something that you have to understand before applying. I'm puzzled on the military employees complaining that they were idle while in service. Really now? So they wanted war in the country for them to work. I mean, I hear you, but at the same time, like, isn't there upskilling that can happen in that time? Granted, you're in the military, but are you telling me the only thing that they can do is that? I'm pretty sure if I ask the 702 listenership that we have, let's say, I'm going to just suck a random number out of my head. Let's say we have 10,000 military employees that are doing nothing. They are idle. So they are trained on some level in something. Because remember, not all of them are there to do the war things. Some of them can cook. Some of them are medical doctors. Do we not think there's something we could give them to do until they're needed? Could they not be stationed in the Cape Flats in Eldorado Park? Huh? Like, I'm pretty sure there is something. And I know there's a good reason why that is not the case. Because it's a big deal for a country to use their army for things that the army is not supposed to be doing. But I don't believe, and maybe Pashida and I need to talk about who to bring in from the military to share with us. Why is it that soldiers, like, they sit and do nothing? Can they not study? Are they not training, doing push-ups? Like, what do they do? And if, like, what are they allowed to do if they have to show up? I don't know. Another person says, yes, junior military members will have time where they wait for the next instruction. But during actual activities, it's 24/7. Senior officials don't have such idling periods, though. What are actual activities? Can somebody help me understand? What are the actual activities that happen in the military? And I think we all know that it's not all about war. Hi, Relebogile. What do provincial governments and legislatures actually do? I think they are a waste of money and they should be discarded. That is Benny in Rustenburg. That's a whole other masterclass, a breakdown of provincial, local. Maybe we'll do that towards the end of the year in preparation for local elections. Another one says, afternoon, Relebogile, you know, if you don't have nothing to do, you create a job inside the company. And our security is doing Z garden and is not a garden boy. Huh? Okay, I think I get what you're saying. They're giving themselves work to do. But also, guys, we don't refer to people as garden boys, ne? I feel like that era is over. Where grown people were calling grown people boy or girl. I can relate with the lady's story. I also work for a Swedish telecoms company, which is male dominant. So you're constantly sidelined for no reason. They have no regard for African employees. The best thing is to upskill yourself and reinvent yourself. I also volunteer to keep myself sane. More of your voice notes on 072 702 1702.
Yeah, good afternoon, Relebogile and the listeners. The story about the lady that wasn't given work to do, even though she was paid. For me, whether you give me a job as a manager or supervisor or not, as long as I'm getting paid, as long as we're not fighting month end, for me, it's still fine. Because remember, I applied for the job, and it means I'm capable of doing everything. So if you don't take advantage of that, for me, it's still fine. Sharp.
Hi, good afternoon, Relebogile. Pat here. You know, we had this manager some time ago. He was our boss, actually. He used to go out as if he going to see clients for appointments or something. And unfortunately, he was a priest or a reverend or some sort. And later it was found out now, this guy, he wasn't actually going out to do his work, to see clients out there, but he was doing that to do his church's services. And he was later fired. Yeah, some people like that, eh?
Yeah, Lebo, no, what you are talking about is typical. One of my friends was telling me that he's being employed, just arrive in the office, sit, open the laptop, and then when he asks for something to do, you'll be told, no, sit there, we'll tell you what to do. And then, it's been 2 years for him to doing that. So imagine it.
The military is a bit of a strange one because it's a lot of hurry up and wait. So you'll get ready for some other thing and then they say, wait. And then you wait. And then you wait. And you wait. And you wait. And you do something because they have to do it fast. And then you sit and hurry up and wait. That's the military for you.
Guys, I could barely cope when I was a full-time actress doing the hurry up and wait, because sometimes you'd wait 2 to 3 hours for your scene. I couldn't even cope with that. Like, it was better maybe in soapy land because scenes move a lot quicker. You're shooting with multiple cameras at the same time, as opposed to a drama. Like on a drama, it's single cam, so you have to do the same scene over and over. You would wait for hours, until I was like, actually, I'm going to study and bring my books to set. I couldn't even cope with those 3-4 hours of hurry up and wait. I don't know how I'd cope. On my TikTok live, Fly Mom says, the military can be trained and placed at entry points since we are struggling with illegal immigrants. We definitely have a masterclass on our hands, which is to understand. Maybe it's the understanding of the rankings of the seniors, who are juniors. And then after you train, what do you do? When you're sitting doing nothing, what do you do? And what is, when you look at the risk management of it all, what is the likelihood that the military would need to go to war? Like, what is the likelihood? We know that some of our soldiers have been stationed in different places, but I would be curious to find out about all of that. Last message. There's something that you have to understand before applying to the military. Military employees complaining that they're idle while in service. Guys, you need to understand. Another one. While at this topic, please find out the KPAs for ministers. Maybe one of them is get in the car, you'll find your speech there. The driver will take you to the destination, read out what's written, and then be escorted to lunch. There are so many questions that I'm left with now. And another person always also saying the army should be reassigned to border control and rural commandos for rural protection to protect against stock theft, farmer ambush, also protection against gender-based violence for women in the rural areas. Thank you so much. We definitely will pick up that conversation. Thank you, for all your engagements.
It all starts with FNB Private. With secure, easy payments for a hassle-free overseas holiday, Tap, swipe, or go digital with your FNB Visa cards. Earn rewards when using your FNB credit card or global account debit and virtual card. You can even fund your global account on the FNB app while traveling. Make the most of every moment. Unlock invaluable with FNB Private. Help changes everything. FNB, a division of First Rand Bank Limited, an authorized FSP and credit provider. TCs, earn rules and limits apply.
Ah, Shane, do you have a sore throat? The Andalex range of lozenges offers two options. At the first signs of an irritated, scratchy throat, use Andalex lozenges for dual action, soothing relief. But for a painful, inflamed throat, use Andalex C lozenges for triple action, pain relief. Andalex, SA's #1 choice for a sore mouth and throat. Andalex lozenges are available at all leading pharmacies and supermarkets.
Just Andalex it.
Time. When you're a kid, it moves slower than a sloth trying to get through airport security. There is just so much of it. Skip forward a few years to your 20s. Time is still your friend. It says have some balance. Go party and have fun. Then your 30s hit. And time suddenly steps on the accelerator like it's trying to catch a traffic light before it goes red. 40s. Now time is moving faster than your 10-year-old on a sugar high. 50. You're desperately trying to save as much as you can, but time is moving so fast. And all you can think is, where did all the time go? That's why after 50 years of investing, we've learned that time is the greatest gift of all. And the good news is, if you invest early, time gives you money. And then money gives you more time for some much-deserved you time. Now, isn't that a compelling enough reason to invest? Ellen Gray. Long-term investing. Ellen Gray is an authorized FSP.
Brush, stroke, paint, color, protect, and admire. From roof paint to exterior textures and interior silk, Warrior Paints has it all. The product range and stylish colors are amazing. And what's more, Warrior Paints has crush prices for incredible savings. Enjoy that good old-fashioned personal service you deserve. For price, quality, variety, and service, Warrior Paints is streets ahead. Warrior Paints. Affordable, lasting luxury.
The Money Show. Weekday evenings at 6.
Stats SA is introducing changes to the questionnaire it uses to assess how many people are working. The Statistician General is Rusenga Malaleke.
Since 2008, we have introduced the quarterly labor force survey, and we have been making additions in terms of the developments that we are picking up. So it's not a new thing, and it's not a question of what was raised by the former CEO of Capitec, Harry Fori.
The Money Show on 702. Let's walk the talk. The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by ABSA CIB, equipping you with efficient and secure cash management solutions for your business. Your story matters. ABSA is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. 702. Finance Feature.
8 minutes to 2 o'clock, time for our finance feature. And for today, we're talking about surviving financial ruin. 011 8830702 and the WhatsApp line 0727021702. We're joined by Natasha Huget-Henchey, a principal consultant at advisory firm NMG Benefits. Natasha, thank you so much for rescheduling and coming through.
No, great. Thanks for having me on, Relebogile.
So, Natasha, what qualifies as financial ruin? And I know that there are some people who are exceptionally wealthy, who for them, being broke means having R500,000 in your bank account, and maybe financial ruin means not having any credit.
So I think for your typical average South African, I think financial ruin is when you get yourself into that debt spiral. And what's happening is that there's not enough months at the end of your money, or there's too much months at the end of your money, and you are unable to meet your expenditure with your income. And so you start borrowing. And so the problem is that this month you owe 500. And so you borrow 500, but because you don't cut your expenses by 500, then next month you still short the same 500, plus you owe the 500 from the previous month, and now you're short 1,000, and so on and so on. And it just spirals down and down and down until you find yourself unable to cope with the pressures And so, you start making poor lifestyle choices, you're drinking, you're gambling to try and make it up, whatever, you stress at work, so you're missing work, and then that creates an even further spiral because then you start getting pay deducted off your salary. To me, it's really getting into that debt spiral.
So if I'm to simplify, if you are in a position where you require, where you need to borrow money to pay debt, but the debt never decreases. So you're just circulating the debt.
You're just circling. And every month what happens is that actually the debt gets bigger because you owe not just 1 month, and now it's 2 months, now it's 3 months, now it's 4 months of whatever you've borrowed.
Yes.
So that is the problem. And it's compounded because unfortunately we are not a very good saving nation. You really, what the advice is when you first start your job, build up a little nest egg. Make sure that you've got 1 month salary set aside, 2 months salary set aside, 3 months salary set aside. They say you must build up to about 3 months worth of salary in a little, separate bank account, locked away, on kind of notice deposit, maybe a short-term notice deposit that you can't get to just go and buy a nice coffee or a fancy pair of shoes. It must be there for your emergencies, and because people don't have that cushion, that also creates a spiral because then, you've got a problem, you need to borrow money, and, the spiral continues.
Okay, so now what are the options that are available to you? Because for me, based on what you're saying, the natural step feels like going under debt counseling and debt review. Unless, of course, you have access to, I know there are people who, when you change jobs, you can access your retirement and then they cover their debt. But that's not really an option for many people.
That's not really an option for many people, and also it means that you're robbing your future self because then your money that's set aside for your future retirement is going towards your short-term debt. So it's really around sitting, honestly, looking at what you're spending your money on, looking at what your income is, and going through getting a financial plan or somebody to help you, working through where you can cut, where it's absolutely impossible to cut, and what you can do, and then start with a plan to cut your most expensive debt first. So our most expensive debt in South Africa is usually the debt that we've got from the loan sharks. So don't try not to go there.
And that's because of course they charge the highest interest, because sometimes
they
if you
charge
say
the highest interest rate.
Yes, most expensive debt is not the highest amount.
No, it's the highest interest rate.
Okay.
Because yes, highest interest rate is your most expensive debt. So cut that debt. So pay that debt first, then pay your credit cards, then pay your store cards, then so just work out a plan, and try and also look at very often people have multiple financial products where they actually they've actually got, for example, some life insurance, group life insurance with a company, and then they've got their own individual life insurance. Like, do that assessment. Do I need double, so then maybe cut that life insurance because I've got the life insurance at my company. So look at your full financial circumstances. Where are you spending and where are you double spending? I mean, people often have multiple funeral policies, for example, because they've got this one to cover auntie and this one to cover the cousins and granny.
So,
and then
so
all
also
of that
auditing all of those debit orders on your bank statements, on your bank accounts. And truly, there are many South Africans that are finding themselves in these positions, Natasha. But we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time.
In the last 24 hours, this is what's happened in your world.
Ekurhuleni Mayor Nkosindiphile Qhakaza says people evicted from a block of flats in Germiston have cost the metro millions in municipal debt. More than 400 occupants were removed yesterday for illegally occupying the units at the Faro Park complex and for failing to pay rent to the metro. The city says it notified them to leave the premises in June after obtaining a court order for the evictions, but some claim they didn't receive any notices. Some of the residents have been left stranded with their belongings on the streets.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent.
Next week on the masterclass with me, Relebogile Mabotja, we're bringing you something truly special, powered by Standard Bank Private. We'll be diving into the journeys of extraordinary individuals who are designing a wealthier life, making smart financial moves that build legacies, just like you can, with the right partner by your side. Standard Bank Private knows success goes beyond numbers. It's about living a fuller, wealthier life with vision, purpose, and personalized support every step of the way. So don't miss it. Tune in next week as we take you on this exclusive masterclass experience with me and Standard Bank Private. Brought to you by Standard Bank Private. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Do not be fooled. Smoking kills. Across the globe, more than 8 million people die of tobacco-related diseases every year. During the broadcast of this radio advert, which is only 60 seconds, 16 people would have died from tobacco. Quit smoking and vaping. If you cannot resist this lethal habit, please protect non-smokers and children. Do not smoke or vape in public places or near children. Inhaling any tobacco product, whether through smoking or vaping, can cause cancer, birth defects, heart, lung, and oral diseases. All tobacco and related products are harmful to your health. This message is brought to you by the National Department of Health.
Year in, year out, we're fixing tires faster than a Formula One pit crew. My team is on top of things like tire whisperers. If an unforeseen accident were to happen in my workshop, at least I've got My Way business insurance to keep the wheels turning.
Visit myway.co.za or dial 0860 64 64 64 and get a quote today. My Way is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's, C's and standard rates apply. My Way. Live your way.
This is EWN.
Good afternoon, I'm Maki Molapo. Action SA is the latest political party to withdraw from active participation in the national dialogue. The party's parliamentary leader, Athol Trollip, said today there are too many concerns from stakeholders that have not been addressed. Instead, the party says it will send 2 of its parliamentarians to keep a watchful eye over the expenditure of public funds. Lindsay Dentlinger has more.
Following on from the DA and the Freedom Front Plus, Action SA too is opting out of the 2-day national convention in Pretoria, which starts on Friday. MP Athol Trollip says the party is sceptical that the dialogue won't be another electioneering exercise, rather than dealing with the real concerns and reforms needed to change the country. Action SA says it does not agree that the precursor event to the national dialogue should go ahead until Parliament has interrogated the budget. Spokesperson Matthew George.
Action SA will not participate in or lend legitimacy to a process under these circumstances. However, recognizing that the dialogue will proceed regardless, we will not be absent from our duty to exercise oversight over a process funded by taxpayers.
The party says it will foot the bill for all the costs associated with its 2 representatives, MPs Jose Letlape and Lerato Ngubeni, attending the event in an oversight capacity. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News.
The EFF has hit back at the US on what South African officials have already written off as a deeply flawed report on the alleged violation of human rights in the country. The United States State Department released a slew of human rights reports yesterday detailing allegations of wrongdoing by a range of countries. In the 2024 edition, the US says the situation in South Africa worsened during the period since its last review in the previous year. The reparees have taken exception to being singled out by the US in the latest report. Nogukanya Mtambo has more.
On page 2 of the 2024 Human Rights Report, the US again ties the EFF to what it previously and falsely classified as a genocide of white farmers. Labeling the EFF as extremist, the report says the party's use of the anti-apartheid struggle song, Dobuli Bonu, Kill the Boer at rallies, incites violence, especially encouraging attacks on Afrikaner farmers. But in 2022, the Equality Court ruled that the anti-apartheid chant can't be considered hate speech and that its lyrics could not be interpreted literally. In a heated response, the EFF has slammed the US for shamelessly positioning itself as a moral authority while engaging in the most grotesque violations of human rights both domestically and abroad. The EFF says the report was clearly crafted to smear South Africa for its domestic policies, including expropriation laws and its stance on Palestine. It says Washington's attempt to delegitimize South Africa's government should not be tolerated. Nogukanya Mtambo, Eyewitness News.
And we move to the courts, where the state is preparing to oppose an application against 4 senior crime intelligence officials who want to return to work. This as the fraud and corruption case against crime intelligence head Dumsane Khumalo and 6 of his co-accused draws closer to trial. The accused appeared in the Pretoria Regional Court this morning following their release on bail last month. The charges relate to the appointment of 30-year-old Dineo Mokwele to an executive position within crime intelligence in April last year, despite her having no policing capabilities, knowledge or skills. Arun Singh has more.
Crime intelligence head Dumisani Khumalo, who's been implicated alongside 6 others in a fraud and corruption scandal, is pushing to return to work. Khumalo and 5 senior crime intelligence members stand accused of colluding in appointing Dineo Mokwele last year as a brigadier for a highly specialized division within crime intelligence, despite her not having any previous policing skills or qualifications. During their appearance in the Pretoria Regional Court this morning, the court heard how 4 of the 7 accused intend to make an application which will see them returning to work. This includes Khumalo, Mokwele, as well as Precious Madondo, the head of Analysis Center at Crime Intelligence, and Josias Lekalakala, Gauteng Crime Intelligence head. But the state intends to oppose the applications, given that some of the witnesses identified as part of the case work within crime intelligence. Arun Singh, Eyewitness News, Pretoria.
The Tshwane municipality says it's committed to providing services at the city's fresh produce market following a court judgment ordering the mayor and city manager to be imprisoned for 1 month if they fail to do so. The metro was found guilty of contempt of court for not complying with an October 2022 judgment which ordered the municipality to upgrade and maintain the market. Among other matters, the city was ordered to ensure the market is fire and smoke detection compliant, purchase generators and evaporator coils with the 18 million rand annual budget allocated for the market. Tshwane mayoral spokesperson Samkelo Mgobozi says due to the city's financial constraints, it will need to secure additional investment to address all the challenges in the market.
While this matter predates this current administration, it reflects a legacy of challenges that have limited the market's potential as a driver of inclusive economic growth. We are determined to change this and are committed to revitalizing the market for all stakeholders. We affirm our respect for the court's decision and our commitment to comply fully with its requirements.
In the Western Cape, journalists and activists are gathering outside the St. George's Cathedral for a vigil to honour the journalists who have been killed in Gaza. They're remembering and showing solidarity with the media workers killed since October 7th in 2023. According to the International Federation of Journalists, more than 270 journalists and media workers have been killed since the beginning of the conflict when Israel launched its offensive against Hamas. Gold's trading at $3,362.71 an ounce. The rand's at 17.51 to the dollar, at 23.76 to the pound, at 20.51 to the euro. Brent crude oil's at $65.69 a barrel.
In Devland, heading towards El Dorado Park, we still have those roadworks on the Golden Highway between the N1 and Union Avenue, while in Tembisa, traffic heavily backed up. That's leaving OR Tambo International Airport between Ruth First and Olifantsfontein Road. That's on the Pretoria Road. And in Edenvale, traffic lights still not working at Modderfontein Road and Van Riebeck.
Look at your weather. Partly cloudy skies in Gauteng this afternoon. Temperatures are peaking at alternating highs of 21 and 22 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News this hour. Action SA is the latest political party to withdraw from active participation in the national dialogue.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
Gauteng's greatest awards with 702 and Yoko. Your vote is not just a click. It's a thank you, a nod, a way of saying we see you. Vote for your favorite local business now on primemediaplus.com.
You're with Relebogile Mabotja.
Live, streaming countrywide
on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM.
Minutes after 2 o'clock, the second and final hour of 702 afternoons with me, Relebogile Mabotja. We're going to jump straight into our masterclass. Now, this is part 2 of our conversation that we started on trauma. And we initially covered some of the basics. We'll do a quick recap at the top of the show, but we also want to hear from all of you. It's a safe space. Feel free to be anonymous, and there is no such thing as one's pain is more or less than the other. This is for awareness. This is for understanding, but also for healing. Get in touch with us as we have this masterclass. 011 8830702, SMS us 31702, tweet at Relebogile M at Radio 702 using the hashtag 702 afternoons and the WhatsApp line 072 702 1702.
702
Masterclass.
Masterclass time. This is part 2 on trauma. Part 1 you can find on primemediaplus.com or download the Prime Media Plus app. We're joined again by Dr. Tumetse Mashero, clinical psychologist, speaker, author, as well as a life coach. And you can head over to her website, rebaonewellness.com. And I know so many of you after last time's conversation were asking, but in case we run out of time. Dogotela, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Relebogile. Good afternoon to the listeners, and kudos for pronouncing Rebaone correctly.
I'm a Tswana Pedi girl. I have to get it right, but I'll be honest. The first time I read it, I said to my producer, "Is it Reba One? Is it Reba One Wellness?"
Many people do that.
Can we do a recap on what trauma is? What qualifies as trauma?
Trauma is about, the perspective of the thing that happens to you. This implies what is traumatic to Relebogile will not necessarily be traumatic to me. So it's a subjective experience. And yes, we do have physical trauma where someone, for example, gets injured, unfortunately, in a car accident and they experience head trauma. And now we're talking about emotional or psychological trauma. So it is that thing that it's how you experience it or perceive it that makes it traumatic. And therefore, we should not actually judge when someone finds something traumatic and you don't. And also, trauma is never our fault. It's often unfair. It's something you don't deserve, but the healing is always our responsibility, which makes trauma, that monster that follows you everywhere you go, even if you don't recognize it, pay attention to it. It doesn't just vanish. It's always with you, and it will manifest in how you relate with people, family, colleagues, but also how you relate with yourself. So trauma is that monster that we carry all the time until we intentionally pay attention to it.
So things that can also be perceived as trauma, because as you rightly said, trauma is the story you tell yourself after something has happened. Not so long ago, we had representatives from Ituba who run the lottery, and they were sharing with us that there's a winner of 124 million rand, and they're going to be given a psychological session, which sounds like, what do you mean? Why would this person need? So just remind us why things that are seemingly good but are life-changing can also be traumatic experiences.
So we are habitual beings. So we get used to uncomfortable or discomfort or unhappy situations sometimes. So for example, someone who grew up with a lot of lack in poverty, when they become, they have access to riches, or they become sort of financially independent, it can be a shock, let alone somebody who wins something, right? Such as 1 million rands. So you can imagine the shock to the system, and that can cause perpetual negative behaviors, because now if you're functioning from a place of lack and come to the space where you are given a lot, that can create, a lot of chaos in your life just because you don't know what to do with it, because it's a thing, you've never had before. But also people are going to expect things from you, which can also, perpetuate perpetuate the trauma experience. And when you function in that state of survival mode or shock or trauma, you don't make wise decisions. Right. That's why you get people who are very spontaneous, and we get shows like I Blew It, because you were in that, function from a place of lack. And it could be small things. Maybe when you were growing up, you didn't have access to certain type of shoes because of where you come from. And then when you get this R1,000,000, the first thing you do is you just shop for a lot of shoes, right? You are buying shoes because you're functioning from a place of lack, because you didn't have those shoes. And hence things that happen to us in our childhood or in the past, if we don't process them and sit with them and grieve what we need to grieve, those things will always be with us. Hence we talk about heal the inner child. It's because that thing that happened to you,
the story you could be telling yourself, if you always believe that you're not good enough because of whatever happened. Now the 124 million hits your account, and now you look at the people who always loved you and think, well, you only like me because I have money, for example. So that becomes the new story that you tell us, which in itself is also trauma. Is that what I'm understanding?
Definitely the trauma response. And hence we need to be aware of what's going on internally within us, because whatever so I always say the subconscious is 90% below the surface, and in it there's various boxes of our experiences. So if we don't process those things in the box, they are often triggered, and we see it in how we behave, how we relate, and that's only 10% of the conscious mind. So, and we sometimes, underestimate the power of the mind, but also we must understand the mind is a bit, slow or dumb, in that it just takes whatever you give it. So if you tell it I'm useless, everybody has perceived me as useless. Now that I have money, it means I can do whatever it is that I want to overcome that pain of, that I have internalized that I am useless, even though it's dysfunctional behavior. The mind doesn't have that ability to think, to make sure that the decisions you are taking are good for you. So, but also in the same breath, when you feed the mind what it needs to be fed, it can show you things beyond your limitations.
All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we continue with this masterclass on trauma. Any of the questions that you may have for us, 011 883 0702, the WhatsApp line 072 702 702, any kind of trauma, physical, emotional, psychological. We'll talk about the impact. It does not matter how hectic or not hectic it seems. Again, it's about the story that you started to tell yourself after it happened. So what is that deep self-belief? Looking forward to all of your calls.
Dreaming of your next getaway? Whether it's a sun-soaked beach escape, adventure-packed tour, or luxury cruise, Flight Centre is your go-to for travel. From flights and hotels to tours and cruises, we've got it all. Plus travel insurance for peace of mind. If you want the best deals, you can save more by taking advantage of our Bundle Plus Save offer. Plan your trip today at your nearest Flight Centre store or visit flightcentre.co.za. Flight Centre, your centre for travel.
Next week on the Masterclass with me, Relebogile Mabotja, we are bringing you something truly special, powered by Standard Bank Private. We'll be diving into the journeys of extraordinary individuals who are designing a wealthier life, making smart financial moves that build legacies just like you can, with the right partner by your side. Standard Bank Private knows success goes beyond numbers. It's about living a fuller, wealthier life with vision, purpose, and personalized support every step of the way. So don't miss it. Tune in next week as we take you on this exclusive masterclass experience with Standard Bank and I. Brought to you by Standard Bank Private. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
When it comes to protecting your workforce, trust the workwear brand that has been protecting workers for over 150 years, Sweetall. Sweetall has overalls and uniform solutions for every industry, so your team is safe, comfortable, and ready to tackle any challenge. Visit our new Boksburg showroom, shop A1 Atlas Road, Westwood, Boksburg, or go to sweetall.com today. Sweetall, we never let you down. Superior protective workwear since 1871.
There's power in a single partner who helps you build a better employee benefits strategy. Begin with retirement, the foundation of securing your employee's future. Now layer in everyday health, mental wellness, and financial balance. And finally, essential protection for life's curveballs, from illness to income loss. Now that sounds like a complete benefit strategy, one that protects your people and powers your business. Talk to us at employeebenefits@oldmutual.com about Old Mutual Corporate's integrated employee benefits solutions. Old Mutual Corporate is a division of Old Mutual Life Assurance Company SA Limited, a licensed FSP and life insurer. T's and C's apply.
Franchise your future with the vision to invest, the mindset to follow a proven system, and the drive to grow something of your own. Meet the minds behind smart investments and proven franchise success on Franchise Your Future with Relebogile Mabotja, brought to you by Cash Converters on 702. Plus, you could win 10,000 Rand to kickstart your journey to franchise your future. Head to primemediaplus.com now. Then, every Tuesday from 1 p.m., catch Franchise Your Future with me on Afternoons with Relebogile Mabotja, brought to you by Cash Converters, your money, your momentum on 702. Let's walk the talk.
702
Masterclass.
20 minutes after 2 o'clock, we continue with our masterclass on trauma. And trauma comes in so many different forms and shapes. This is part 2 of the conversation. You are able to catch up on part 1, but don't worry. We have given a bit of a recap of part 1, but also just want to open up the lines to all of you to share your stories of trauma. Feel free to do it anonymously and get to hear from our clinical psychologist, speaker, author, and life coach guest, Dr. Gitumetse Mashero. Doctor, I am thinking about people who are stuck. I remember watching an episode of the Oprah Winfrey Show where there's a woman who had lost her daughter. And after a good 15 to 20 years, she's there still crying, like distraught, like it's fresh. And Dr. Phil, she was obviously just sharing that she's stuck. And Dr. Phil at the time asked her, you know, what would happen if you started living? You know, what would happen? And on top of that, what do you think your daughter would want you to be doing with your life right now? And the light bulb went off in her mind because she had never looked at it that way. Now, we all know people who, and I want to be very careful with how I'm going to say this, not that we feel like they should have moved on by now, but they are stuck. Can you help us with differentiating? Because I do think sometimes people can be insensitive where they feel like, how, get 3 months, you know, but the stuck in the, help me with the words, doctor.
Yes, definitely. As I explained, when things happen, they are packed into the subconscious until the person has the capacity or they're assisted to process that pain. It will remain sort of with them until they sit with it. And when they do sit with it, the emotions are as if it's the day that trauma happened. So you can actually become stuck, even though you know, 15 years has passed. And it's important to note that no one can love you out of that pain. Because we often think, if I just get a new partner, and it's not even if you were traumatized in a relationship, it's like exactly this woman who was stuck for 15 years. You know, no one could love her out of that pain. The onus was on her to sort of sit with that pain and process it so she can be on the other side of the pain. No holiday can make you escape, you know, the process needed to process that pain. No money, nothing can save you from that. And also we cannot pray it away. And there's nothing wrong with, you know, going to church and praying about things. But I always say, be careful that, you know, you're not sitting waiting for a miracle to happen for that pain, because even with faith, it requires, for God to move for certain believers, it needs faith, right? It's not sort of an automatic thing. So it's the same thing with emotional pain, that it won't just go away because time has passed. You need to really sit with that thing and process that pain until you find yourself on the other side. And also, you don't forget about the people you've lost, for example, if that's what's causing the trauma. It's more about growing around or, in spite of what happened to you, and hopefully in a way that you still thrive in spite of what happened to you, so that that thing doesn't define you. But definitely, yes, there is a high potential to be stuck, because we grieve because we loved. Right. So if you loved something a lot, even if that thing wasn't good for you, by the way, you still must grieve the same way as if it was good for you, which is the thing about the mind. We should grieve even toxic people, because, you are grieving not because they deserve it, but because you loved. That's why we grieve. And I think that's where people struggle with, even grieving a toxic person.
And I'm so glad you mentioned that. I interviewed a woman who was in an extremely abusive relationship. Her husband basically tried to take her life. And in that moment, she ended up taking his life, fending him off. And she's still absolutely distraught. Now, many of the comments were so confused, like, you should be relieved that this man is gone. He was trying to kill you. But she kept saying, I didn't just love him back. I still love him. Yeah. Can you help us understand, for those of us not in those situations, why can those two things be true? Because on the one hand, I believe that the person loved this person and just hated what they were doing to them. And also, in an ideal world, they wouldn't have left the person. They would have, changed the person, which we know a person can only change if they want to change.
Definitely. And it goes even beyond an intimate partner. You get sometimes parents who are toxic, right? I love my parent, but I hate how they make me feel. So that lady has, it sounds like she was also experiencing that. I loved my husband, but I absolutely hated how he made me feel and how he treated me. But just because I hated how he made me feel doesn't make the love, less prominent, and it still does exist. And I really hope she finds a safe space to grieve the love that she had for her husband, so that she can also move on in spite of what happened to her, or what almost happened to her, and what happened to the husband. Because in that incident, probably she's experiencing a lot of guilt, because I don't think anybody wants to really kill someone unless, if they loved them. So it goes to show that two things can be true at the same time. And we really need to give grace that sometimes we want logic when it comes to things like love, but there is no logic. Right? There is no logic. We need to understand that when it comes to love, emotions, intense emotions, there's no 1 + 1 is 2. Right? If 2 is there, 2 - 1 will be 1. So there is no logic. And I think sometimes us trying to apply logic to that, that's what causes also, difficulty in people moving on. But really, you need to grieve because you loved, not because the person deserved, the love or deserves your tears, but because you loved. And if you intensely love this person, it means you will grieve just as hard. So that the mind is also unable to distinguish then what was good for you and not in that regard.
Please help us understand spiritual bypassing, especially because you touched on the aspect of faith. And we do know there are many, many people who believe when it comes to grief and trauma that God will fix it all. I just need to pray. I just need to fast. Can you share with us why that isn't necessarily the answer? I mean, I always say you're not going to go to your dentist for gynecological issues and vice versa. That's the way I process it, but I know that's not always the case. So I don't believe that you should be going to your pastor to pray over you when you should be going to a psychologist. But maybe share from a medical perspective.
For people who do read the Bible, I do say to them, but if you look at the Bible, there's so much intense emotions there, right? There's grief, there's all sorts of emotions. So they are not per se evil. The emotions are a part of humanity, meaning I can be happy, I can be sad, I can be angry, I can be depressed. And it's not because I don't have faith. And people who have come into my practice know that I'm a great believer, of that. But when in terms of therapy, I don't even bring that into the therapy room because I'm focused on the depression, the anxiety. And when you're anxious, remember, sometimes it's because you are wired for that. And I think that's what we need to promote out there, that some people are predisposed to cancer, some people are predisposed to cholesterol, that in spite of how healthy they are, they can still develop cancer due to many other things that happen in their life or environmental things. But because they are predisposed to cancer, they will get cancer, against all odds. And it's the same with things like anxiety. Just because, me and you can go through the same thing and one of us develops anxiety is because maybe I'm predisposed to anxiety and you are not. But it doesn't make me crazy or less of a person. It just means that's how I'm wired. So we really need to promote that people don't stigmatize other people or themselves and wanting to snap out of things such as depression because it's there. Right. It's really is something that you're experiencing. You're not imagining it. You feel like you are spiraling into a dark hole, and no amount of prayer can pray you out of that. Right. And it's not to say that prayer doesn't work. It's to say that when you are in the dark hole, you need to help yourself out of that, and prayer can assist and support. And so people mustn't think that prayer doesn't, it's almost like someone exercising their depression away. Exercise is good. I recommend exercise, but exercise is not equivalent to psychotherapy.
It's not replacing.
I would go run.
It's not replacing the one. And I want to make clear, I'm still a faith person, and I think that there is room for both. And I hope that we don't walk out of this conversation thinking it needs to be one or the other. All of these things work in tandem. There are people who do a combination. Some people require medication. I have a person on my TikTok live who says, I'm that person. I've got cholesterol, but I live such a healthy lifestyle. We need to go to the news. When we come back, we continue. I see your messages on 072 702 and 702. Give us a call, 011 883 0702. It's just after 2:30. Time for your latest Eyewitness News headlines. Good afternoon.
Thanks, Relebogile. Good afternoon. The Home Affairs Department says it has set in place contingency plans to accommodate the public serviced by the torched Home Affairs building in Germiston in Ekurhuleni. Yesterday, a demonstration led by angry residents being evicted from their homes in a block of flats in Faro Park set the structure alight. Home Affairs Deputy Minister Njabulo Nzuza, who came to inspect the building today, says 4 mobile units have been placed at the city's civic centre to help resume services. We move to the Western Cape courts, where counsel for one of the accused in the leave to appeal application in the Jocelyn Smith case has claimed that hostility to her client, procedural irregularities and collusion by the judge ultimately led to an unfair trial. Lawyers for Kelly Smith, Jaquina Polis and Stevino van Rijn are presenting arguments to have the convictions overturned. They were convicted of kidnapping and human trafficking 6-year-old Jocelyn Smith and were handed life sentences in May this year. And Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has indicated that a Gaza ceasefire is now focused on a comprehensive deal to release all remaining hostages at once. The plan previously was for an initial 60-day truce and partial release of living hostages. Hamas says a delegation of its leaders is in Cairo for preliminary talks with Egyptian officials. Those are the headlines. This Eyewitness News and more at 3 o'clock or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Well, at this stage, if you are leaving the Joburg CBD heading towards Rivoli, traffic is a bit sluggish on the M2 westbound between the Crown Interchange and Main Reef Road. Also heading into Rivoli, there's still slow-moving traffic in the Devland area on the Golden Highway. That's between the N1 and Union Avenue, and further up in the Naturina area, there's bumper-to-bumper traffic on the Golden Highway between Chris Hani Road and the Golden Highway. There's also slow-moving traffic. This is heading towards Midrand in the Sandton area, M1 northbound between Greyston Drive and the Patlu Interchange. Also slow-moving traffic in the Sharon Lee area on Malibongo Drive between Belez and the N1. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072 702 1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
702 delivers
On the matters that matter to you.
Hi everyone, this is Busi from Soweto. One thing that I love about 702 is how great the presenters are and the information is reliable.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts.
so we can deliver more on what matters to you.
702 listens.
Let's walk the talk.
Burnt out, distracted, done. This is your wake-up call. The Mind Matters Summit hits South Africa, Cape Town. Top experts, elite athletes, wellness icons. One day to reset your mental game. Your turning point starts here, happening at the Cape Town International Convention Center on the 4th of September. Mind Matters Summit. Change your mind, change your life. Book now at mindmatters-summit.com in proud partnership with Prime Media Cares.
It all starts with FNB Private. Diversify your portfolio to grow your wealth. Gain global exposure through shares or unit trusts on the FNB app. Tap into international investments and tax-efficient offshore trusts to build your legacy. Unlock invaluable with FNB Private. Help changes everything. FNB, a division of First Rand Bank Limited, an authorized FSB and credit provider. FNB International Trustees, FNB IT registration number 3080. Licensed by the Guernsey Financial Services Commission to conduct fiduciary business. T's and C's apply.
Do you know what's hiding behind colorful packaging of unhealthy food? Big food companies target children with unhealthy packaged foods that hide high levels of sugar, salt, and fat, which could lead to heart disease, diabetes, and hypertension. But the truth is hidden from consumers. Front-of-package warning labels are a proven solution to help consumers make informed decisions. The government must act now. We have the right to know what's in our food. Demand front-of-package warning labels. Sign the petition on heala.org, HEALA.org, by 30 September.
The Momentum She Owns Her Success workshop is back for season 7. And this year it's all about how women have the algorithm. Join them as they unpack the invisible codes that power her financial success on the 16th of August. Get the formula for your career, your money, and your life from inspirational women that make it all happen. Register now for the She Owns Her Success workshops at momentum.co.za. Momentum is part of the Momentum Group Limited, an authorized and registered credit provider.
Coming up
On 702 Drive with John Perlman.
702 Drive is coming up from 3 to 6 p.m. with John Perlman. John, happy Wednesday. What's coming up on your show?
Happy Wednesday to you, Relebogile. Good afternoon to all of our listeners. So, the Springboks squad to play against Australia and upcoming, of course, matches against New Zealand and Argentina. 25% of the players are from the same part of South Africa. Can you guess where that would be?
I have no idea. Gauteng?
No, Cape Winelands, which is a relatively small area. So that excludes Cape Town. We're talking Paarl, Wellington, that part of South Africa. 25%. It's a really impressive number. We'll talk to Shawnee Rasmus.
What's in the water there?
Well, what's in the air is many, many decades of absolutely passionate love for the game. Shawnee Rasmus is the head of rugby at Paarl Boys High, which is one of the schools providing Springboks, not the one that provides the most, but he used to be head of schools rugby, and we'll talk to him at 20 minutes past 5. We're going to look at a very, very interesting thing. You've been talking about it, reading the promos on your show, Relebogile. We'll chat to Professor Andrew Forbes from Wits University, real global expert on quantum physics and the potential of that discipline, which I have to say I have a very sketchy understanding of, although I have had a tour of Prof. Forbes' lab earlier last month, in fact, which was great. But he's going to be talking to us a little bit later at 10 minutes to 4. Crime intelligence police bosses in court again today. Oren Singh joins us to connect that to some of the issues going on around General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. And we will get a view from Zambia on this former President Edgar Lungu and the legal dispute about where he should be buried. All that and more on 702 Drive.
702 Drive coming up from 3 to 6 p.m. with John Pillman.
702
Masterclass.
Masterclass. We continue with part 2 on our conversation around trauma. 011 883 0702 in the WhatsApp line 072 702 1702. And we have some of your messages coming in as we are chatting to Dr. Gitumetse Mashero, clinical psychologist, speaker, author, and life coach as well. And I'm going to get to them. The first one, doctor says, Relebogile, I was betrayed by a best friend who I met at work. Since then, I've made a decision not to ever make friends at one, but I have since realized I'm missing out on some amazing people, but I don't know how to bring down the barrier. Oh, this is a big one. I'm sure there are many people who, once that first time they burnt their finger, they never go near a flame, which means they don't get the warmth.
Definitely. And I think we need to understand that it means she hasn't processed that pain that she experienced. And it's quite significant if it's hampering her future relationships. And it goes back to what we were talking about, that the subconscious has these boxes of experiences, good and bad. But of course, we struggle more with the bad and tend to remember them more. And if you're functioning from a place of pain, I always say to people, emotions, raw emotions, unprocessed emotions are like little demons. They possess you. And if you're functioning from a place of pain, you are likely going to, it's going to show up in how you relate with other people, but also with yourself. And until you sit with those emotions, there is nothing that's going to just happen overnight. She needs to now seek an objective mirror like myself to come and process that pain, but to also see, how do I go forward and ensure that I pour into people who are pouring back into me, and have good relationship in spite of what happened to me, so that what happened to me doesn't define me as a person or how I interact with people.
One says, Doctor, we have been subjected to extreme trauma as historical disadvantaged communities. The level of gender-based violence and violence in our midst, can it be traced to our repressed trauma?
Definitely. When we look at why, for example, there's high GBV, it's that 10% of the behavior that people display, meaning, and it's not to excuse abusers' behaviors, please, that's the disclaimer. It's just to understand where we are. So the people who are abused are projecting their own things, but the target is, the victims that they target. And it's sad because, they're not sitting with that pain, whatever it is that's causing them to do that. And at some point, it develops into their personality, and we say things like, no, they've always been angry, unjalo, and nobody is born angry, but the anger they carry is really representative of what's going on below the surface. But because they haven't been helped, but also they didn't choose to get the help, right, to process that pain, it now manifests as aggression towards, victims. And what then happens is the high GBV rate, and also the victims of such. Remember what abusers do. They target something you're struggling with and they push you over the edge with it. So for example, if it's your weight, if it's whatever, it could be your ears, and they talk about your ears. And remember, misery loves company. So if they get a negative reaction from you talking about your ears, then they will daily tell you about how horrible your ears are and how Tumi's ears are better than yours, and just crush you regarding your ears. And until you also, because I always say to people, yes, abusers are horrible, but we need to look at what is it in you that they saw as an opportunity to deal with. And that's what we help you heal around, so that you don't find yourself in repetitive cycle of abuse, or getting so angry that you tend to then abuse others because of your experience. As that saying goes, hurt people hurt other people, even if they were unfairly hurt. Sometimes unfairly, yes, and sometimes you're not even aware that you're hurting other people or yourself. So it's important to really, ensure that you're self-aware of what's going on within, and deal with it. It's not easy, by the way. It takes courage to do that.
All right. For those with children in the car, this next question is a sensitive one. If you'd like to switch stations. It reads as follows. I was molested at 6. My mom didn't believe me. At 19, I was raped. First marriage, I was abused. He killed someone and burnt the corpse, went to jail. Second marriage was bad. He killed himself. Third husband used dick and sold all my stuff. He's also abusive. How do I get over it all? I feel I can't do anything. This is from Anonymous.
Sure. I'm so sorry for the experiences she's been through. What I can suggest, is that, but firstly, let's understand that trauma can be compounded and become complex, right? So it's not just one thing, but, it's many things that you are dealing with. And for me, it sounds like she would benefit from firstly seeing a clinical psychologist just to make an assessment also and refer accordingly if medication is needed from a psychiatrist. But from what is stated in the text, it sounds like the person would probably need a longer intervention because of the complexity of the things that she has experienced. And sadly, it starts from childhood. So as remember what we started on in the beginning, going back to last week or the last part one, is to say that whatever you don't handle, it just sits there. So it will probably have to go back to even the initial trauma where, the mom did not have the capacity to be what she needed as a child. Because remember, when a child doesn't feel safe and is being traumatized, they have nowhere to go, and that will then lead to certain behaviors in an attempt to cope with what they have been exposed to. And of course, it sounds like it led to so many other things, which is quite sad. But I really hope they seek out clinical psychologists to just help them with everything that they have been through.
We have to take a break. When we come back, we continue with your questions. 011 883 0702 and the WhatsApp line 072 702 1702.
Whenever you hear deep in the heart and art of jazz, think Sia Makuzeni with the big band, Jasmine Horn, Alun Wad, The Baylor Project, Jose James sings Badu, Umusangare, Esperanza Spalding, Michelle Dugiocello, Elaine, Tezo, Munei, Mondli Ngobo, and many other spectacular icons. Think Standard Bank Joy of Jazz Festival, 4 stages at the Sandton Convention Center, 26th, 27th, and 28th September, and take me there. Book via Ticketmaster.
As a business owner, would you rather deal with stacks of slips at the end of each day or have recons done instantly? Introducing Yoko Counter, the new all-in-one payments and points of sale system that removes the guesswork, the paperwork, and the time drain. Taking your business from chaos to control, guesswork to clarity, giving you back time to focus on what truly matters. Visit yoko.com today to find out more about the simple yet powerful out-of-the-box solution with free built-in point of sale software.
To walk the talk is to turn words into meaningful actions. And it's what we at 702 are committed to doing every day. We are also committed to following the rules set out by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission's Code of Conduct, to give you balanced programming, fair comments, and accurate news. But if we stumble along the way and you feel we are not living up to the code, let us know on comments@702.co.za. And if after that you're still not happy, you can direct your complaint in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission. Email bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more, visit bccsa.co.za. 702
Masterclass.
13 minutes to 3 o'clock. We continue with our masterclass part 2 on trauma with Dr. Guy Dumetse Mashero, who's a clinical psychologist. 011 883 0702 and the WhatsApp line 072 702 1702. Doctor, I was just thinking now about that previous SMS, that very, very sensitive and absolutely heart-wrenching experience, which I think there are many people who find themselves having compound trauma. What is it about us that, and I don't know if I'm going to articulate this accurately, but sometimes you'll hear people say, if you have been raped, you are more likely to be raped again. Can you share with us if there is a psychological thing around human beings being drawn to the same type of traumas that they have been exposed to before, beyond just the part of like, oh, but that's your comfort level. You will hear of women who leave abusive relationships and find themselves again in abusive relationships. Maybe you can share some insights with us around that.
I think from a psychological point of view, we need to understand that if you don't process the pain or the thing that made you vulnerable, and again, I'm not excusing abusers' behaviors. They are always wrong. People who do such things to victims. There is no excuse for that. But if you find yourself as a victim, sadly, the onus is on the victim to get the help that they need to overcome so that they can be able to, protect themselves just from a psychological point of view. But of course, in the life that we're living in, women are often at risk, right, for that, and even men nowadays. So it doesn't mean that there will be less risk, but it just means that if you haven't processed that pain that you experienced as a victim of abuse, there is a likelihood that you might end up in similar because of that thing that was vulnerable that someone else who's an abuser is able to pick on. I don't know if that makes sense. So if it's because I'm vulnerable about something I struggle with, I'll use my example. I always tell people the story that I went through, that I was in a relationship for 12 months and I was psychologically abused. And the person targeted, whether I will make it as a clinical psychologist because I'm one of the youngest. I was 23 when I qualified. And he pushed that to an extent that for 8 years I was traumatized, right? I would hear his voice, even though I left the relationship. I was traumatized for 8 years. But for me, I didn't, you couldn't see it. So I sort of internalized it and I hated to be in my skin. For other people, they might externalize that and, find themselves in similar situations where the abuse is repeated because they haven't dealt with the fact that clinical psychology, like in my case, is the way to go. So I don't know if that makes sense. I'm just trying to simplify it. But, because it was something I struggled with, but it's only after 8 years. So there was no miracle that happened. And by the way, I'm a believer. So I used to do church. I used to pray and nothing happened for 8 years because I had internalized such self-hatred for myself. And I had believed that I will amount to nothing and that clinical psychology was a waste of time. By the way, my mom is a professor in clinical psychology. So in spite of the evidence, right, I was still stuck in that. It's only 8 years later when I said to myself, I'm not okay, that I actually got the help I needed. And it didn't take me 8 years to heal. But the amount, just because I went there and I healed, that negative view of self. Now, if you tell me I'm useless, I'm like, okay, sorry for you. You can find someone else. But, at that time, it was not possible because I was stuck. His voice lived rent-free in my head. I was trapped with the words he told me and I internalized them as truth. And that's the danger. People say things all the time. But if you internalize it as truth, the mind doesn't know how to distinguish between what's right and wrong. It will become your reality. And that's why what is traumatic to me won't necessarily be traumatic to you because I've internalized it as truth and you haven't. So that's what we need to always bear in mind when we deal with trauma.
I'm going to read some of the messages that have come through. One says, good afternoon. I slipped and fell on the stairs in May 2023. I do not forget that day because I have fear. I'm still using the same stairs even today. I'm not sure if this is trauma or not. Anonymous in Soweto says, I meditate, I do affirmations, and do deep breathing to heal trauma caused by anxiety. That's Anonymous in Soweto. Another person says, good afternoon. Thank you for this topic. As much as we try to deal with trauma, there are always triggers. 30 years, I'm still dealing with the pain of being abused by my father, but I have forgiven and it's not easy to forget. Chad in Johannesburg South says, part of our trauma also involves things that we allowed to happen to ourselves and things we knew to be wrong but did nothing about. We need to stand up for ourselves more. That's Chad. And Badimo says, afternoon, Relebogile and guest. What I'd like to know is what is the impact, if any, of flashbacks on trauma?
So triggers and flashbacks means that thing is still raw. right? So when that thing is happening where you are still triggered, it means go back and go process it. And it doesn't mean you'll forget what happened to you. It's more about being able to move on from it, and in spite of what happened to you. So not being overwhelmed. So flashbacks is usually, maybe it's still fresh, or maybe, it's still overwhelming the system. So I'm always the advocate for people just going into, just to check in. And it doesn't mean you'll be in therapy for life. It just means if you're struggling with something, you're overwhelmed. That is why people like me exist. But please make sure it's qualified people, because out there people are calling themselves all sorts of things: therapist, hey, life coach, hey, it's busy. So just make sure people are qualified.
I love how you say it's busy. It's busy. I think another a thought that I'm having is I wanted to just ask you very quickly around the trauma that we block out and why it still impacts us even if you don't remember. So there are people who have chunks of their childhood that they cannot remember. We do know that sometimes the brain does those things to protect us and what we're unable to cope with, but it doesn't mean it doesn't affect you psychologically.
Definitely. And it goes back to that subconscious. Yes, it has different levels, but let's not go into that. But it's 90% of the mind, meaning it's filled with those boxes. So even if you don't recall what happened, you're avoiding, you're repressing, you're suppressing. Yes, initially it could have been, as sort of a protection because of your age and where you were. And, at that time it was a lot. But if it's coming back, as flashbacks, as nightmares, or as splits, stints in your memory, or you see it in how you behave that, there's something offish, please seek help to just help you journey back so that you can, process that and deal with it so that you can be free of it. So even if you're not going there, it doesn't mean you're not carrying it, right? And it will come out. So whatever you're not dealing with, you will project, be it to others, be it to yourself, in the way you interact, with life also. So we need to understand that and sort of do the work within. It's not always easy, but it is possible. And it takes courage to sit with someone like me to open those boxes that you thought were sealed for life.
Final words, doctor, and thoughts.
Trauma is never our fault. But the onus is always sadly on the victim to do the work within, to thrive, and become the best version of self in spite of what happened to them. It's not always easy. And if you're at a point where you are older or, time has advanced, I always say that if this thing is still with you, it means, or you haven't dealt with it, it means now you've got the capacity. Please ensure that you seek the help, but know that you're not alone. So if you're walking with a professional, yes, it might feel like they're going to open this box of worms. But if you're working with a professional, you can be on the other side of your pain and, become the best version of yourself. Because trauma that's also not dealt with might lead to poor coping strategies, right? That's why you get people cutting themselves, drinking and doing all sorts of things in an attempt to escape the trauma. But ensure that you sit with it until you are on the other side of it so that you can, learn from it and become the best version of yourself. You are not what happened to you. And you can be, a healed version of self.
Doctor, thank you so much for your time and for guiding us through this very sensitive conversation.
You're already doing so much, handling life, responsibilities, and the unexpected. So give yourself some credit with a Visa FNB credit card and get the resource you need. Experience flexibility, support, and a partner that helps you stay in control. Apply for a Visa FNB credit card online or visit your nearest branch today. Help changes everything. T's and C's apply. Credit is subject to meeting the qualifying criteria. FNB is a division of First Rand Bank Limited, an authorized financial services and credit provider.
Diabetes has become the leading cause of deaths in South Africa. Every hour, at least 3 people die of diabetes in this country. This means that in a year, we lose more than 30,000 people to this dreaded disease. This is a silent pandemic which requires active participation by all of us. You may be asking, what can I do as an individual? Limit intake of foods and drinks high in sugar and be physically active. Eat right for a better life. Foods high in sugar, fat and salt can lead to obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease and certain cancers. This message is brought to you by the National Department of Health.
Dear Journal, trying to be an adult day 3731. I'm really struggling to explain my parents to my therapist. Might send him to live with them so he can see for himself. What if he ends up in therapy too? Wait, what if they love him more than me?
Finally learning about mental health. Get covered at pineapple.co.za. It's convenient and like 19 Rand a day, so it's 100% the insurance for you. Underwritten by Old Mutual Alternative Risk Transfer Insurer Limited, a licensed non-life insurer and authorized FSP. Premiums are risk profile dependent.
Relebogile is on X at Relebogile M.
For all of you that are living with struggles and challenges around trauma, here are some helplines to assist you. The South African Depression and Anxiety Group's suicide line, 0800 567 567. We also have Lifeline, that is General Crisis and Trauma, 0861 322 322. 0861 322 322. These are toll-free numbers. You don't have to suffer in silence on your own. I hope you're able to get the help. Thank you for joining us. It's 3 o'clock.
This is EWN.
Judgment has been handed down in the leave to appeal case in the Jocelyn Smith case, and Netanyahu hints at Gaza talks to focus on releasing hostages all in one go. For leave to appeal in the Jocelyn Smith case for the convicted trio. They were convicted of kidnapping and trafficking 6-year-old Jocelyn Smith and were handed life sentences in May this year. Earlier today, counsel for one of the accused in the leave to appeal application